Good evening, everybody out there. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've been on the desk for College God, but we are super excited to be back in action. I am your host, Evan Johnson, and not really Evan, joined by my fellow co-caster, Hayden Phaser King. Hayden, how we doing tonight?
Oh, it's going to be a great night, Evan. We got some more College COD on the docket. Like you said, it's been a while. The Saints have a good matchup tonight against Baldwin Wallace University. Should be a fun one.
No, a fun one I think is a good way to say. The Saints have been dominant. For those at home who have been following along, the Saints still remain undefeated in College COD, one of the absolute powerhouses near the top half of a very, very top-heavy conference, I'd say, for College COD. But the Saints are proving time and time and again that they deserve to be up there with the rest of the elites.
Yeah, this roster has been elite. They have been, quite frankly, unstoppable. 12-0, no maps lost. I was just out there talking to Rupert. They are confident that they were going to 3-0 tonight, continue on a strong note to end the regular season for sure.
No, I think that is a good way to say, a very confident 3-0, but, like we always say, you can't underestimate your opponent in any situation. But I don't think these guys are going to do that here tonight. Let's take a peek at that Saints roster who will be playing tonight from left to right on your screen. We got Brandon, Seawads, KB, and Rupert. Very North American heavy team tonight. We got all sorts of representation, and then KB pulling in with that Columbia representation. Love to see it. Really good team on paper, I'd say. What really jumps out to you?
Well, the boys were warming up before we started our broadcast, and Rupert and Seawads, they were extremely vocal tonight. We see Cootie there as well. I think the boys they're just ready. I think they might. To me, they seemed to be almost anxious to get into this one. They were kind of over their scrims. They might have been going for a little bit too long, but they're ready for this one. They're excited for sure. KB was having a good time. I saw him playing a little bit on Hacienda, a little bit on Protocol. So they're keeping their map pool fresh. They're keeping their game modes fresh. A lot of control, a lot of hardpoint. The boys are getting their jerseys ready for another matchup here. It's going to be a fun one for sure.
No, absolutely. And when you take a look at Baldwin Wallace, on the other hand, they come in 7-3. Definitely not a slouch, all things considered. But when you kind of break it down and really look at the teams that they have beaten, because we were talking about this before, not really as impressive as some of the Saints' victories we've seen.
Yeah, not on the scale that the Saints have been at. Of course, 7-3, a couple of rough losses. They just recently lost to Akron, who is another top team in college COD. So they're kind of going through this gauntlet, really, between Akron and St. Clair. They have to find their footing at the end of this regular season here and try and, hopefully if they can squeeze their way into the playoffs, have a little bit of momentum. Tonight against St. Clair, they definitely need to show something, show some life, and show that they have the ability to compete at that higher level.
No, absolutely. And you kind of mentioned it. I was going to get into my next point about this being the penultimate week in the regular season. The Saints definitely want to keep this momentum going, as we get into these, huge important matchups in playoffs. If you're the Saints, what are you doing tonight to prepare, and just what do you need to do to stay locked in?
I think it's about the fundamentals tonight. It's about communication. It's about winning your gunfights, your one-on-ones, and in those non-respawn game modes in Search and Destroy, you want to put yourself in an advantage early on. You want to keep the lives in your favor, and if they're not in your favor, coordinate with your team. Try and find a rotate, a poor angle, a poor sightline, anything that you can, use to your advantage. It's going to be important for the Saints tonight. But in those respawn game modes, that hard point, that kind of mixture in control there, I think they're pretty confident, especially with the map pool they have.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a very, very tough test for Baldwin Wallace. And speaking of, we are going to take a look at that roster who's going to be up against the Saints. Quite the challenge for them tonight, but let's take a look and meet them. For BWU, we got 10E, King Corrupted, TJ Fish, and Yuzaki, I think is how they say it.
Yozaki or Yuzaki?
I think Yozaki. Yozaki. If you're watching, you understand. This is very understandable here. I'm trying my best here, bro. But when you look at it, we have seen some TJ Fish action before.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was on that academy roster. So they're calling him up. They're calling him up to the majors for this one. Maybe using him because if he's played against St. Clair before, maybe they're going to try and use that against it. Maybe he recognizes and remembers some of that previous action.
Definitely remembers that one. That was a rough one for the Baldwin Wallace University Academy team for sure. And maybe TJ Fish, like you said, maybe he's scouted ahead. He's the one that's faced them. He might be communicating to his team, saying, "Hey guys, we have an opportunity here. We've seen what this team can do, and now it's time to show them what we can do, what our full potential is." And I think TJ Fish should be in line for a good game tonight for sure.
No, absolutely. But again, like we were saying before, we do think it is going to be a pretty easy 3-0 for St. Clair. I mean, there isn't really anything that tells me otherwise. I mean, if you're Baldwin Wallace, though, I think even just taking a map, to be the first ones to say, oh, we took a map or a round off of St. Clair, I think that would even be something to be proud of, because like we've seen, like we've been talking about, the Saints they're just not used to losing it, at all, quite frankly.
Yeah, they're not. I think we've always talked about this. I feel like when we do college COD, we always say that the Saints' weak point is that no respawn game mode, that search and destroy. If Baldwin Wallace has practiced anything to prepare for this matchup, it has to be that search and destroy. They have to come out swinging in that and just try and hold their own in that first hard point, that first control. And from there, who knows? You take one map, you might shatter some confidence, but I'm confident that the Saints are going to 3-0, fulfill the Rupert prophecy, and keep the win streak and the map streak alive heading into that last week.
Well, we will see if Rupert's prophetic vision will come to fruition tonight. We still got to wait just a little bit longer for them to pick their maps and get into the game, so we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be ready for some college COD. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome back, Saints Nation. We are here on Vault for a bit of Hardpoint, a classic for the Saints against Baldwin Wallace University. Evan, how are we feeling as we start this one up?
I'm still feeling good, I think. I mean, Vault is can't really go wrong. I mean, this is the classic Saints pick. They love playing Vault. They love scrimming on it. This is just a classic in the current CDL rotation. So I think the Saints are going to be ready for this one. They just have to make sure that Baldwin Wallace doesn't get a hot start. If anything, that's going to be their one issue, because sometimes they do let teams start a little hotter than they prefer, and that gives them a chance to just, build that lead. And, you can't take any opponent lightly, so you just have to make sure you start it off good and keep it rolling. And it looks like the Saints have been doing just that. Cootie and Brandon starting it off, and the Saints continue to get that hard point ticked up here. An early lead as Baldwin Wallace trying to make a play for it. That's Yozaki taking it for Baldwin Wallace. Just 2 measly points for them as Brandon trying to get back in and retake it for the Saints here as they do get back on it. Seawads in with support for Brandon. An early double kill for him. Looks like the boys are rolling early.
Beautiful 4 streak right here for Seawatts to start us off. The Saints up by 20 early on here. In great positions. Brandon over Yozaki. And Baldwin Wallace looks to reposition here onto this next hard point. Corrupted onto Cootie. Finds one a little bit caught out there is Rupert as Baldwin Wallace tries to make a comeback early on, claiming that point, but the Saints are coming, and the Saints are coming in strong. Brandon tries to find one, finds one on Tenny, can't find the second. Refragged out by Rupert, and Cootie just able to trade it out. 35-14 on the side of St. Clair. And now, as the timer ticks down, this 30-second mark on the second hard point, the Saints in a great position, 45-14. Baldwin Wallace putting up a bit of a fight, but they've just kind of been caught out in these rotates. Rupert, a beautiful double now. The Saints extend their lead.
Yeah, that was a great retake, especially. This hot tub hardpoint is just really, like, if you're not paying attention and you're not getting on there quick enough, you can easily let your opponent come back, because that's such a defender-heavy hardpoint. So really good job by the Saints to retake that one. And now look at that. Because they were able to retake that one, they build this lead up even farther, as now Rupert's getting set up on this outdoor one, using that trophy system for his advantage, trying to keep all that tactical utility away from him, as that's Cootie lasering Zaki away using these long angles. We always talk about these super long angles on Vault, really heavily favoring these AR players for the Saints. Looking at Cootie and Seawads especially, they love using that aim as just an absolute Swiss Army knife of a gun, good in any situation. And as the Saints hit 100, it's really been no resistance on the side of B. Wallace, like just all Saints early.
Yeah, they just haven't found their groove yet. 10E, a nice double right there, bringing himself to 7 and 9, but the Saints have just been locking down these hard points. They are perfectly positioned, winning their gunfights. Rupert, Cootie, and Seawads filling up the scoreboard. The Saints, it's all green and all good as they hit the 118 mark as they rotate over to the next hard point. Baldwin Wallace tries to find something, anything, a spark to start this comeback, but the Saints will not relent. Rupert, an 8 streak, 9 and 3 in the match. Beautiful stuff. Enjoy that L on the side of Baldwin Wallace. Tries to find something, but Rupert again denies him. A 9 streak for Rupert, who has been unstoppable in the first part of this hardpoint match.
They really just make it look too easy. I think my own toxic trait is like watching this and thinking that I can recreate this type of action at home. It does not look like this on my own gameplay, but the Saints, continue to be dominant. This inside hardpoint, again, these inside defender-sided hardpoints are just so good for the Saints. As Tenny, though, does get a little bit of progress for Baldwin Wallace. They have a lot of work to do, though, down by a lot. I'm not going to do that math, but it is a lot right now. Definitely all Saints early here as we have 5 more seconds before the hardpoint swapping again. Seawatt's trying to set that spawn trap up, getting Baldwin Wallace caught lacking here. Let's see if enjoy that L, and Zaki can get something going. Does find Brandon, does flash him out, and gets him after. But now Baldwin Wallace having to rotate inside where the Saints are waiting here. That's Cootie winning another gunfight, but Corrupted taking him out right after. But the Saints do manage to get on the hard point for a couple of seconds here, but I think at this point it's just about keeping Baldwin Wallace staggered and making sure they don't get in.
Yeah, you gotta catch those rotates off. See what's in a beautiful position. A nice shot onto Corrupted on that high ground. Able to find one. He's gonna get flanked. Pardon me, that was Cootie on another player. I thought that was a Baldwin Wallace player. Cootie, a beautiful headshot onto 10E now. 15 seconds left on this hard point. The Saints catching these B Wallace players just out of nowhere. Brandon, a beautiful shot onto Enjoy That L. A second onto 10E. The Saints climbing 175 to 33 as this hard point heads into a rotate. The next one now in position. Baldwin Wallace can't find anything. They're getting farmed out of spawn by Brandon and Cootie. The Saints racking up the scoreboard, racking up the kills. Cootie, another one onto Enjoy That L. And Rupert is chilling in the hot tub, enjoying life with this huge lead.
Yeah, it's gotta suck. All his teammates are doing all the work, and then Rupert's just chilling in the hot tub on the hard point. But he's doing the Lord's work. I mean, like, look at his time on point. Like, just hitting over 2 minutes. It's, you need those type of team players, especially in a type of game mode like this. But really, like, Baldwin Wallace just had absolutely zero answer for the Saints. The Saints been really good at setting up these spawn traps, and they have just no answers. We switch back to Rupert just chilling out and vibing. Absolutely no one coming to stop him, though. Does have to chase somebody out and is going to find him, though. You can enjoy that L as Rupert wins that gunfight. And the Saints score continues to tick up. Only 18 points away, 19 points from winning this first map. And it looks like they're going to do it pretty easily, unless Baldwin Wallace can mount an insane comeback. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to happen?
Definitely not. 15 points now left for St. Clair. They just need to close this out. A ton of time left on the clock, but Baldwin Wallace, they just don't have anything. No momentum really to carry them forward. The Saints aren't even getting onto this hard point to end this. They feel so confident that they can just run this out. Yozaki and Enjoy That L, trying to take something with them into this next match, but it is not looking great for Baldwin Wallace as the Saints close in 2:40 on the scoreboard. 10 left. Baldwin Wallace tries to make this interesting, but really can't find anything. Rupert, a nice kill onto Zaki. Corrupted back onto Brandon, and the Saints have the hard point with 10 seconds left, looking to wrap it up. Rupert onto Corrupted. Tries to find another. He will, but it's backed up by Seawads. A third onto that, and it's a beautiful finish here for St. Clair College on this first hard point.
I was just going to give Baldwin Wallace some credit because that last hard point, that was probably their best defensive showing that we've seen in this game. And the Saints, just like you said, like right when you think things are going bad, they just find a way to fix it. Here's Seawads with the best play of the match here, just going crazy with that Jackal, finishing out with a lovely 22 and 13. Very good score, I think, for the boys here. I mean, not really, like I said, not really much resistance from Baldwin Wallace at all. Just kind of feeding those kill totals, getting caught in those spawn traps. Definitely not a good first map for them. How do you think they can bounce back in this S&D coming up?
It's going to be rough. Like you said, they had a little bit of a spark right at the end on that last hard point, but I don't know if that's enough to really carry into Search and Destroy. That was it was a brutal showing. Let's be honest, it was a brutal showing. They started off like most teams do. They get to the hard point first, they get wiped, and then from there, it's just you're caught out of rotations at all times. Players are getting picked off. The Saints love keeping a guy, in this case it was Rupert, keeping him on the hard point, letting the other guys do their work. Do what they are paid to do. Do what they're here to do. And that is frag out. And these Baldwin Wallace University players, they had no answers for them, frankly.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. No answers for those spawn traps either. I mean, like, it's not even like they're moving too much. They just, like, the Saints are just so good at hitting those shots that they're just, like you said, there really is nothing you can do. Like, I think we've all been there. You getting caught on Christmas, and the Prestige 3 player is just is just farming on Rust. We think we've all been there before. We know what that's like. But if the Saints can keep this dominant streak going, they definitely are going to be looking at that 3-0 potentially. And with S&D coming up, we're going to be seeing a real pace switch, right? We're going from this like super hardcore fast-paced respawn mode to this lives-based round where things are going to be a bit quicker but a bit more tense as well. Do you think maybe Baldwin Wallace can maybe steal one early and surprise? You think maybe?
I thought before the game maybe, but now I think the momentum is just in the Saints' favor. They looked truly dominant in that first map. We can take a peek at their stats. I think, coming up here, and we can just see, like, really they had no weaknesses. They had no flaws in that first map. They love vault. They love hardpoint. They really, I don't know. They just seem to be on the ball tonight. And Baldwin Wallace, they just seem to be caught out for sure.
No, it's exactly right. And it's very hard, I think, for us casters to even find things to really to criticize about the Saints gameplay because there really isn't much there, right? Like it's you play like such a clean like game. It's like you just feel like you're nitpicking at that point and it's not even you know, just we're so I think, you know, it's very nice to witness this greatness of this Call of Duty team and there are those stats that you were promising earlier. Look at Cootie picking it up and leading the team. 27 kills for him. Rupert 19, Seawatts 22, Brandon 19 as well. Pretty solid stat line across the board here. I mean, even while Rupert, like I said, was spending most of his time on that hard point, he still almost cracked over 20 kills and doubled his KD. I mean, like that in itself is impressive.
I think it shows the Saints' willingness to be aggressive, especially, you know, when you have that hard point. It's one thing to just have it and stay in a defensive stance, but it's another to have it and bring the fight to Baldwin Wallace. You know, they really had nothing rolling, and the Saints used that to their advantage. Corrupted with 10, enjoy that L with 11, Zaki with 13, and Tenny with 13. They really just couldn't find anything to, keep the spark on their side for sure.
No, definitely demoralizing, I think is a
Yeah,
good word
yeah.
for it, but we will see if Baldwin Wallace can find that spark. We are going to be taking another break before Search and Destroy, but coming up, like we said, more Call of Duty after the break.